Is my team plowing that I was used to drive, and hear the harness jingle when I was man alive? The horses trample, the harness jingles now, no change though you lie under the land you used to plow. Is football playing along the river shore, with lads to chase the leather? Now I stand up no more. The football's flying, the lads play heart and soul. The goal stands up, the keeper stands up to keep the goal. Is my girl happy that I thought hard to leave? And has she tired of weeping when she lies down at eve? Your girl lies softly, she lies no more to weep. Your girl is well contented. Be still, my lad, and sleep. Is my friend hearty? Now I am thin and kind, and has he found to sleep in a better bed than mine? That I lie easy, I lie as that would choose. I cheer and take man's sweetheart. Never ask me who.
The 4th of August 1914. Owing to the summary rejection by the German government of the request made by His Majesty's government for assurances that the neutrality of Belgium would be respected, His Majesty's ambassador in Berlin has received his passport, and His Majesty's government has declared to the German government that a state of war exists between Great Britain and Germany as from 11 p.m. on August the 4th. Newspapers on the 5th of August reported that a huge crowd had gathered on the previous evening outside Buckingham Palace in London, clapping, cheering and singing the national anthem as the King, Queen and Prince of Wales appeared on the balcony shortly after 11. Communication at that time was limited to telegraph, telephone, although few had one, letter and newspaper. By the 8th of August, press telegrams received by the Western Morning News were posted daily at the Sidmouth Herald offices. Most towns had a crier, and at that time Sidmouth was Theophilus Carslake Mortimer.
Oh yay! Oh yay! Oh yay! War declared on Germany! War declared on Germany! Sidmouthians, we are at war! Oh yay! Oh yay! Oh yay! Cancelled! Sidmouth lawn tennis tournament! All games at Sidmouth Rugby Club, Sidmouth Horticultural and Flower Show, cancelled until further notice because of war. Oh yay! Oh yay! Oh yay!
The German invasion of Belgium united the nation behind the Liberal government of Herbert Asquith. Most people expected that their allies would quickly triumph and over Germany, and the war would be over by Christmas. A great deal of patriotic fervour was whipped up by the popular press and politicians, resulting in a rush of men to join up. On Lord Kitchener's instructions, a new form of short service was introduced, under which a man could serve for 3 years or the duration of the war, whichever the longer. Sidmouth Urban District Council was quick to organise the Sidmouth Relief Fund Committee to raise funds to alleviate distress caused by the war. On Sunday the 9th of August 1914, Reverend Kenneth Woolcombe, minister of Sidmouth Parish Church, addressed the congregation from this pulpit.
On Tuesday, August the 4th, the Prime Minister, Mr. Ashford, with a heavy heart, sends our forces to confront the German army, which, with a blatant disregard for their neutrality, is marching through Belgium. It should be with a willing heart that Sidmouth sends its sons to fight. This is an enemy who would subjugate our neighbours, whose navy threatens our seamen, and who, if unchecked, will invade this, our sacred island. We must all face the perils of war, as Jesus faced the cross, with the knowledge that God is on our side. I urge all men can be spared to go. Young men of Sidmouth, the army, the navy, your king and your country, your wives, your mothers and your children need you. And as Lord Nelson said, expect you to do your duty.
Sidmouth's young men and women did their duty, and many were photographed standing proudly in their uniforms by me, Arthur William Ellis.
What of those they left behind? We will now see the First World War through the eyes of two well-known Sidmouth families.
My name is Richard Channing. This is my wife, Mary Jane.
We were married in Alderton in the spring of 1882.
I work as coachman and nurseryman for Colonel Balfour, out all hours of his beck and call.
Our first son, Richard, Dick we call him, was born in 1883. He married Beatrice in 1909. He's joined the 44th Devonshires in Exeter.
Our George was born in 1885. He's a coachman like me. He's joined the 8th Devonshires.
I'm William, Bill, born 1891. I'm in the Devonshires too.
I'm Ernest. I joined the Navy in 1904. I'm off any day now, transporting the expeditionary force to France. John's our youngest. We call him Jack. Just 19 in another Devonshire. We're proud of our boys. They're doing their duty. Reckon they'll be home by Christmas.
Those brave Channing lads went off to fight, but other families had different priorities.
I'm Anna Clode. My husband Edwin died in 1906. We have a 126-acre farm and a bakery shop on Sidmouth High Street. Takes a bit of running, all that. My daughters, Edith and Esther, help me.
We've already lost two of our brothers. Our oldest, Ernest, in 1901, and Arthur in 1905, both to Baker's Lump. Then our Percival went to London, married Florence. But our Edward, he married an honest girl.
Didn't he go up country too?
Came back to Devon, though.
Torquay. So I'm left on my own to run the business.
I work in the...
Edith and Esther aren't married, luckily. My boys are all too old to enlist, except Ralph. I'm depending on him to help in the business.
The Sidmouth Observer, the 12th of August 1914, carried this article. That Sidmouth had been profoundly stirred by events has been apparent to all. The calling up of the Naval and Army Reserve brought us all face to face with the fact that war was almost at our doors. And then there was the buying and dispatch of horses. The closing of provision shops gave rise to the greatest alarm. The cause was largely due to some people buying large quantities.
Bread! We want bread! Bread!
You bleeding one giant all you like! You can't have bread until we've baked it.
But we need bread! Go away, come back in the morning, and don't expect more than your usual order, because you can't hoard bread. Go on, be up with it. It's Sunday, Mother. We bake bread for them instead of folks' Sunday lunches.
Oh no, we are not. We do the lunches as usual.
I better get the others going.
Oh, I bet that lot gone round.
The Sidmouth Herald noted the unpatriotic rush of many of the well-to-do in the manner of food supply, apparently with the idea of safeguarding their own skins at the expense of their less fortunate fellows. It was an unhealthy sign, but we prefer to believe that it was a sudden outbreak of panic and not a deliberate intention to handicap those who have no chance of making similar provisions in their own homes.
Read all about it! Patriotic local young men do their duty, first to enlist from Axminster as war is declared. Read all about it! 9 men first to enlist from Sidmouth.
Another pressure was exerted by women like me and suffragettes. We heard what had happened to women when the Germans marched into Belgium, so we started giving out feathers to able-bodied men not in uniform.
Oh yay! Oh yay! Oh yay! His Majesty the King, the Queen, and Lord Kitchener. God save the King! Oh yea! Oh yea! Oh yea!
A Sidmouth lad hit the national headlines. Young Stoker, Hardy Salter, was on the Queen Mary, and his photograph appeared in the Daily Sketch. Local territorial nurses, Miss D. Grimaldi and Miss M. Mawson, were appointed to military hospitals. As a result of a prompt response to an appeal in Sidmouth papers, blankets were dispatched to F Company on Salisbury Plain and were very much appreciated. By early September, daily telegraphs from Central News were displayed in Trump's shop window. Mr. Sanders received lengthy messages by telephone, which he then wrote in large characters and posted in the window of his furniture shop, with a second amongst books and postcards at Culverville's library, Grosvenor Fall Street. The rush for local papers was described as lycra rugby scrum. One man suggested,
"'Twould be much nicer plan and facilitate the quick delivery of the papers if people was to line up 2 and 2 and take their turn."
On October the 3rd, the following appeal appeared in the Herald.
Owing to a shortage of leather, the War Office needs good boots for the new army. Please send partly worn but strong serviceable boots, carriage paid, Army Boot Store, London, SE. Blankets, overcoating and underclothing is also badly needed.
By the end of 1914, Sidmouth had lost 14 of its sons.
Able Seaman Gilbert Burrows. Able Seaman John Ackland Smith. Petty Officer First Class James Horn. Lieutenant John Chalmers. William Johnson. Edward Quick. Private Westaway. Major Hugh Wake. Petty Officer Robert Searle. Able Seaman Louis Adlam. Stoker James Spiller. Thomas Evans. Private William Slade. A. Mayor. Private Alfred Oliver.
The new year began with a terrible blow locally when the battleship HMS Formidable was sunk off Lyme Regis with the loss of 547 crew. Renewed pressure for volunteers continued as the Allies suffered huge losses in France and Belgium.
In Sidmouth, a full-time watch over the sea from Peak Hill to Southern Hill was set up with Coast Guards and volunteers, including us Boy Scouts.
We worked 6-hour shifts and had to run into town to raise the alarm. If German U-boats set spies ashore, they would run into us, 400 defenders, each armed with a sword stick. But this did not go unnoticed by the
How does that affect the education committee?
I'll tell you how. Half my school are asleep at their desks.
Ridiculous! Are we sending children out to watch for the enemy?
The youngsters are very keen to do their bit.
You mean schoolboys are on the cliffs all night?
Armed with sword sticks, no less.
I've never heard anything so preposterous.
I hear the Admiralty want boys over 14 to assist.
We can't criticise their enthusiasm, but we can't have boys under 14 getting involved. Their education will suffer.
We must put a stop, all in favour. Carried, I'll send circular. Our 11th Education Committee rules that schoolboys under 14 should not take part in night watching.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all.
One of the night watch, Mr. N. MacLeod, joined the army.
My only happy memory of joining the army was it took me away from my younger brother, who used to come off watch at 2 a.m. in winter and stick his cold feet in my back.
But what of our two families? All was not well at the Clothes Bakery.
or even identity to enlist. Men who were not fit for service or were awaiting call-up were given grey armbands decorated with a red crown to prove they had enlisted.
Come on then, you brave lads. Anyone want to enlist? How about you? Or you? Hey, you there. Come on, lad. Get yourself up here. Look sharpish, come on. Yes, you look good enough. Can you read and write, son? Fill in this form then.
Name, Edward Ralph Cloud.
Oh, we've got a bright spark here.
Well, I'm called Ralph, but my name's Edward Ralph.
Well, where you're going, lad, you'll be gonna grow. 183993. Royal Horse and Royal Field Artillery, sir. So it won't matter.
Age 26. Dress, clothes, bakery. High Street, Sidmouth. Trade, baker.
Baker, eh? I'll pay you all worth a bob or two. Price of bread these days.
The price of wheat's gone up so much we can hardly make ends meet.
You know, you could be eligible for reserved occupation, son.
Not interested. Are you married?
What's the matter, lad? Can't you remember if you're married, or are you trying to forget?
I'm not married yet.
Got yourself a sweetheart?
She's going to be my fiancée.
Oh, very likely, darling. Put no.
Next of kin.
That will be your dear old mum.
Oh, she'll glad to sit back with me.
You know, if you're needed for the business, you could get exemption.
She won't even notice I'm gone. Not interested.
Up to you, lad. Right, put your hand on this Bible and read that.
Edward Ralph, please.
In your head, lad. Just read it in your head, or we'll take all night. Right. Sign here. Well done, lad. You're in the army now.
Oh, cool.
Should have asked that before you signed. 3 years or till the end of the war. Christmas, in other words.
They said that last year.
And they should say it again next year too. Now wear that till they send for you, or you'll have the White Feather Brigade after you. God save the King.
God save the King.
Right, who's next?
The Sidmouth Observer reported a fire at a house behind the Marine Hotel at 7 p.m. on Sunday, March the 14th, which caused quite a thrill. The German Navy had been bombarding England's east coast, and when the fire brigade set off rockets to call men to the fire, many people were in church and thought that Sidmouth had been attacked. German submarines caused havoc in the channel, but never got near enough to damage this town.
She treats me like a hired hand.
Calm down, Ralph.
I've had enough of it, Florence. They'll cheat me out of the shop. I know they will.
Well, we'll manage somehow.
Edwin's taking his inheritance to Torquay, and Percy's in London. I'm the one keeping the bakery going. What have I got?
Well, we'll be together. That's what's important.
No matter what Mother says.
That's the spirit.
What's hell with the bakery? I'll be away soon.
What
What do you mean?
I've enlisted.
Oh, Ralph, what have you done?
I didn't want to tell you like this, but...
Please don't leave me. Why didn't you tell me?
We can be married before I go, if you love me.
Of course I will.
You will?
Careful, someone will see.
We'll go to Cheltenham as soon as we can, to see your parents.
Reverend Johnstone, he'll marry us. Christmas week he did. And when you get back, we'll have a bakery of our own.
First things first.
Oh, I'm so happy, Ralph.
I've got you to fight for now.
I wish you didn't have to go.
Go now. I've got others to clean.
How's things? Engaged, I hear?
You too? Getting hitched before you're off to the front?
Been to Cheltenham to see Florence's folks. And set the date, 5th of April. How about you?
Waiting to see which rust bucket I'm sailing on this time.
Thought you was on Prince George.
It's in Malta for repairs. Took a hit in the Med. We're paid off now, waiting transfers to other ships.
So where to next then?
Hope we don't get the North Atlantic runs. Too bloody cold. Mind you, the Med was too bloody hot, in more ways than one.
Yeah, you've seen some action, alright?
Too much, mate. What with the Hun trying to kill us in the Channel, and the Turks hitting us in the Med.
Yeah, I definitely will feel safe on dry land.
Here's to that, Ralph, and congratulations to you and Florence.
To you and Ethel. Cheers.
actually ring the bells because of wartime regulations. Please welcome the happy couples, their families, and their friends. Able Seaman Ernest Channing and Miss Ethel Edmond, Gunner Ralph Claude and Miss Florence Ward, Mr. and Mrs. Channing and Mrs. Claude. Do you take Ethel and Florence to be your lawful wedded wives?
We do.
Do you take Ernest and Ralph to be your lawful wedded husbands?
We do.
I now pronounce both couples man and wife. You may kiss the bride.
Serious losses at the front called for another desperate push for volunteers. In Sidmouth, a recruiting march was held on the 5th of June from Sidford to the Manor Hall. The Sidmouth Observer commented that it is hoped the streets will be decorated and many recruits obtained. This is probably the last time young men will be asked. Conscription was the next step. On June the 15th, the 3rd Devons Regiment and the band marched the same route, hoping to encourage recruits, since Sidmouth was reported as having 8% less than Exmouth.
Mrs. Channing! Mrs. Channing! Oh, you finally found me, Mrs. Cole. Where's the fire? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just being neighbourly.
Has Ralph got his marching orders yet?
He left 2 days ago. Would you like a cup of tea?
Well,
I'll just come down. Go round the side. I'll be down directly.
If you insist.
Come and take a seat, Mrs. Channing. It'll have to be a quick one. Only I've got to scrub the bakehouse tables.
I mustn't stay long myself. The windows need doing.
Very nice cup of tea. There. Well. Oh, I don't know. Boys, there's such a worry.
You right there. You're lucky. Your boys are all too old to fight, except Ralph.
Lucky? You think I'm lucky? I've already lost Ernest and Arthur to baker's lung from breathing all that flour.
I'm sorry, I'd forgotten.
It's not just mustard gas that kills our boys. Some of them die at home doing ordinary things like baking bread.
Don't let's fall out, Mrs. Claude. There's enough of that Well, at least my Dick's home safe with Beatrice and the little uns, for the time being.
I'll be fretting until Ralph comes home. I've been hard on him, I know. But now, oh, when will he be back?
He's probably still in England, love, square bashing or Baynardton sacks of straw.
My Ralph! I can't imagine it. Mary, how do you cope?
Keep yourself busy, is all I know.
Working all hours, and it is.
I've got a pattern for socks. Do you knit?
I haven't time for knitting.
It'll give you something to do when you start thinking.
Socks?
Can't get enough socks down the trenches.
Of course. Maybe I should try some booties.
Ralph and Florence.
During March.
Oh, congratulations, Mrs. Clone. Anna, something to look forward to. I was so proud my boys fighting for king and country.
I'm proud of Ralph. Volunteering and all.
Makes you wonder, though. I run them up, and for what? So they could go to war?
I think I'd better get on with the cleaning.
Every day I'm dreading that telegram.
Would you like another cup of tea, Mrs. Chan? Mary, what about a little treat?
Sidmouth carried on as best it could. In August, the Observer reported the more settled state of the weather, which has been greatly appreciated by our visitors. This was followed by a visit from the Royal 1st Devon and West Somerset Imperial Yeomanries and the North Devon Hussars. About 1,000 mounted men. Their entry occupied 20 minutes, dismounting on the Ham Meadow and proceeding across the Esplanade, up over Peak Hill, for rations on Mutter's Moor. The state of the ground after that visit was not mentioned. In October, the Observer received a letter from Sergeant H.F. Clements, serving in 142 Field Ambulance in Belgium, appealing for a gramophone. Now the evenings are drawing in, and shell fire makes it inadvisable to walk out. A little music would help patients attend to this advanced dressing station. The editor responded by sending a gramophone, and appealed for donations of records to accompany it.
mysterious fire for many years past. Oh yea, oh yea, oh yea.
The hotel was a single-storey, flat-roofed building from where the Corinthian Sailing Club and other aquatic activities used to be watched. At 2 a.m, Captain Skinner of the Fire Brigade called the firemen by the discharge of 2 rockets. The building could not be saved, and the observer reported that all the barrels of beer and bottles of spirits were burned. The rockets once again brought crowds to the seafront despite the lateness of the hour. At the Victoria Hotel, head chef Mr. J. Diener designed a perfectly proportioned 5-foot-long sugar facsimile of HMS Lion. It had revolving gun turrets and was lit electronically. And now, a 1915 Christmas weather report from the Sidmouth Observer. What weather? It was mild, it was cold, it was wet, it was dry, it was dull, it was bright and sunny. Yes, this aptly describes the Christmas weather we have had. And the mud! Well, there were few worse places than the High Street. Our 2 Sidmouth families now had 6 sons fighting in the war. By the end of 1915, another 15 Sid Valley men had lost their lives.
Private Alfred Hodson, Private Harry Salter, Lance Corporal John Taylor, Corporal Edward Otten, Lance Corporal John Morman, Able Seaman Charles Bailey, Able Seaman George Selling, Petty Officer William Butterus, Captain Alan Hay Webb, Second Lieutenant John Moss, Second Lieutenant William Hill, Private Archibald Slee, Corporal Harry Bucknell, Private Arthur Stevens, Royal Marine.
The new year began with crisp, sunny days in January and the beginning of February. Everyone was doing their bit. In the Sidmouth Herald of February the 5th.
I am Lady Maud Witherham, and I am collecting worn and broken silver, or gold coins, thimbles, trinkets, and any other oddments, to provide for a motor disinfector for the front. Miss Darnell at Stanhope will be pleased to receive and forward your articles or money.
The Sidmouth Observer of 9th February 1916. On Thursday, February 6th, a heavy southwesterly gale sprang up during the afternoon and raged with great fury during the evening and through the night. Immense waves broke over the esplanade, but the sea wall, which was repaired last year, stood the force well. At the eastern end, the roadway at the drill hall was again washed away.
On the 29th of February, a wish drive was held. 15 shillings was given to the Mount Pleasant Sewing Society, who held their meetings twice weekly during the First World War, and who will be able to provide shirts and comfort woolens for our soldiers and sailors.
On March 1st, the observer reported unusual weather. The Arctic conditions of the past week naturally caused surprise, especially to visitors who had come from the north, leaving bright sunshine to arrive in a snowstorm. The following week there was more. The observer commented, "Sidmouth awoke again to find streets covered with snow, and even more surprising, the snow was left to clear itself. Where were the scavengers? Sidmouth spends £1,000 a year on scavenging, and yet there were no men available. Where were they?" Well, things don't change, do they? But I doubt our present-day street scene operatives would appreciate their 1916 name, scavengers. In February, the Devon Education Committee met again.
Right, gentlemen, I have a letter from Mr. Hastings, Scoutmaster Sidmouth, asking for a relaxation of our rule that refuses to recognise that coast watching is a beneficial employment and exempting boys of 13 from exemption of school.
Hastings of Sidmouth again?
Well, the committee did point out to him some months ago that such employment is illegal, but he still continues.
They'll grow up to be idlers and loafers.
Well, the boys won't be disadvantaged by missing school.
Well, it does them good, gives them an object in life, and they take it very seriously. I know parents who say their boys look much better doing this than poring over miserable books.
I know an example where they went on duty for 12-hour shifts.
Well, we have it in Sidmouth, and it's doing the boys good.
Idlers and loafers, that's what they'll be.
In their March the 1st issue, the Sidmouth Herald reported,
A patrol of 60 of our Boy Scouts were awarded the 1914 War Badge for their involvement in coast watching. They were met by Sir Robert Bacon-Howe, who was on a tour of inspection along the coast. Names familiar to us today met with the Scout leader: Russell, Palfrey, Easterbrook, Quates, Clark, Hook and Woolley. Let's hope they didn't fall asleep the next day at school.
A register of women willing to work on the land was being compiled by the end of March and had a considerable number of registrations according to Isabella Tyndall's letter to the Herald. Mr. Wright from Salcombe Hill was offering training in vegetable gardening, and some women were working for the first time. On March 29, 1916, Florence Clode gave birth to Philip Edwin Clode. Ralph was given home leave to meet his son. On the 5th of April, the first of a series of special war films was shown at the cinema. A living picture record was obtained of the Dardanelles operations. The Observer said it gave Sidmouthians a real live opportunity of going to the front from the safety of a cinema tip-up chair. This was followed by a visit to Sidmouth on June the 5th at Primley Field of Bostock Wombwell's gigantic combined show, which featured...
Oh, look! There's a hippie of Oslo! See, there's a Bengal tiger! People straight horses and a unicorn! Them's are zebras, and that is a wild horse. Same thing. Look at the podium, it's massive! Same as that gorilla there. Very funny. What are you, a laughing hyena? Look, them elephants bigger than steam engines.
At the end of June 1916, George and William Channing were with the Devonshire Regiment on the banks of the River Somme. Here is part of a poem written by Lieutenant William Noel Hodgson of the Devonshires, which appeared on the 29th of June in the New Witness, a national weekly paper.
By all the glories of the day and the cool evening's benison, by that last sunset touch that lay upon the hills when day was done, by beauty lavishly outpoured and blessings carelessly received, by all the days that I have lived, make me a soldier, Lord. I that on my familiar hill saw with uncomprehending eyes 100 of thy sunsets spill their fresh and sanguine sacrifice. Ere the sun swings its noonday sword, must say goodbye to all of this, by all delights that I shall miss. Help me to die, O Lord.
2 days later, on the 1st of July, Lieutenant Hodgson died, along with 19,239 others, on the first day of the Battle of the Somme.
Bill, what are you doing out? The war over and nobody told me.
Hello, Eddie. You're looking well. See how honestly agrees with you.
Mustn't complain.
Nor would I find 6 foot of hard place to hold to protect me. The 6 foot of sinking mud.
Stop it, both of you. Bill's here to tell us about George. Sit down, Ernest.
Sorry, Mark. What can I tell you? I don't know what to say.
We deserve the truth, son. God knows there's little enough in this letter. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Channing, it is my painful duty to inform you.
You know what hell to do. We Devonshires were dug north a bit in a woodland called Mansell Copse, and they're in a stick of a tree still standing. Our artillery was giving the Boche hell for a week solid. They was giving us hot time too. Completely bucking up the front line and the bloody reserve trench.
William, I will not have barrack room language in this house.
What's got into you, Bill?
Sorry, Mark. Father. Anyways, we dug further back and sat out for a bit. Then, 1st of July, after a night of bombardment, the whistles blew and the night called over. It should have been easy going, but it was a quagmire. Shell holes and ripped up wire everywhere.
Steady on, Bill. It'll upset Mom. Let him speak, Ernest. What about George? What happened?
The 9th. Bloody hell, Dad.
What about the 9th, son?
The 9th got hit so hard, so we brought it up.
What about our George?
We, the 8th, was over in the afternoon. George copped early, Mark. Silly bug just kept on going. Just kept on going.
But what else could he do?
He should have dumped into a shell hole! I told him. But he wouldn't listen. He wouldn't have known so much about it, Mark. Lead that was thrown at us. Mortar balls and shelling. He wouldn't have.
Where is he? Where's our George?
We buried them in proper. God knows we did. Even though it was wet to skin and tired to death. Our patrol in the burying.
Where is he?
In a trench at Mansell Copse. We went over the top. A few of the lads put up a wooden sign and wrote on it, "The Devonshires held this trench. The Devonshires hold it still." I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry. Come here and give your old mother and I. I am really proud of you.
I think we could all do with some tea. Your base on, Mary. Right. All the gears are now, so I'm running on this out of the room.
There's not much more to tell.
I think there is. Quick, before she comes back with the tea.
The night went over first. Ordered not to run so they didn't cop it from our guns. You could hardly bloody run in that kit. Rifle, 200 odd rounds, bully beef, biscuits. Like they were going on a bloody picnic. Waterproof sheet, I ask you. Sandbags, 2 gas masks and a pick and shovel. Against orders to run. Could hardly bloody walk. Then, 3 parts of our shells were duds. Duds! And they knocked the machine gun out of the churchyard back at my mats. Captain Martin kept telling them, "You've got to knock that one out!" Had they hell. It was bloody murder. After a couple hours, the night was done for, as the 8th was ordered up. We pushed through the assault and took what the officers called objectives. We took the mats. We lost 2 companies without firing a bloody shot. 160 men we buried in that trench. 160.
All right, so that's enough.
Despite these terrible losses, life went on. In August, new lighting restrictions were imposed, which demanded that all windows must be darkened. But Sidmouth was prepared, since it was possible to buy dark blinds or curtains which will answer this purpose and are always satisfactory if procured at Sanders of 4th Street. And the nightly coast watch continued, much to the annoyance of the Devon Education Committee. On November the 5th, a ship was beached at Sidmouth, causing the only alarm raised by the watch during the war.
Sir, look sir, I think there's something moving out there.
No, Johnson, that's just the waves.
No, really sir, I can see it too. It's one of their boats sir, it's a mast sir. Thomas Bailey, sir, look, I can see it too.
Yes, you're right. Quick, run to the police station, raise the alarm.
Okay sir.
Now then, lads, what's all this?
There's a boat piece of bugler.
A boat, eh, lad? And where is this boat?
Stranded on the beach sir. Scoutmaster Hastings said to raise the alarm.
Right then, lad. Let's do that then.
I'd like to take a picture of that ship out there.
You have to get a TC from the War Department or the Navy, Mr. Ellis.
But it's only an ordinary merchant vessel, PC Bugler.
You have to get special permission, Mr. Ellis. There is a war one. Come on, lad. Oi! I want you! Mr. Ellis! Mr. Ellis!
Arthur Ellis appeared in court in December, accused of taking a photograph and film of the HMS Brindon Hall without a permit from a competent naval authority. Mr. Ellis claimed that the photographs of the ship on sale in Sidmouth were developed by his wife without his knowledge, and that he had not known that the ship belonged to the Navy. He filmed the ship, and it had been shown by the Gaumont Company nationally, everywhere but Sidmouth. Arthur Ellis was fined £5 plus costs. But, in his defence, Arthur gave free entrance to his cinema to wounded soldiers wearing a light blue collar on their uniform. 1916 took a terrible toll on the Devonshires and Sidmouth's brave men. By the end of the year, 25 more local men were lost.
Captain Leslie Hastings, Second Lieutenant Humphrey Cole, Rifleman George Selly, Lieutenant Eustace Maton, Stoker First Class William Mutters, Able Seaman George Russell, Lance Corporal Reginald Tucker, Private George Channing, Private Ernest Cox, Private Gilbert Otten, Private Alonzo MacLeod, Sergeant John Rugg, Private Alfred Butter, Lance Corporal Edwin Evats, Corporal Frank Russell, Lieutenant Reginald Harris, Sapper William Taylor, Private Bertie Hayman, Private Albert Purnell, Private William Chapin, Lieutenant Lancelot Adrian Tyrrell, Private Edwin Barrett, Corporal Arthur Lake, Captain Charles Hay Webb, Second Lieutenant E. A. Field.
March the 29th, 1917 was Philip Clove's first birthday. Ralph sent this embroidered card to his son. It read,
To my darling boy, March 30th, 1917. From France during European War. From Gunner Ralph Clove, 183993, RFA.
Early in April 1917, a public meeting was held at All Saints Church to discuss the War Office request that Sidmouth provide 40 extra hospital beds. A letter from R.D. Stokes, Commandant, appeared in the Sidmouth Herald of the 7th of April 1917. When in 1916 Sidmouth was asked to supply a hospital, Sir Thomas Dewey very patriotically gave Peak House for the purpose, and rich and poor alike came forward with contributions. Now we have promised another 40, making a total 90 beds. The wounded from the trenches are calling. We must extend a helping hand to them. We memorialise the departed, let not us forget the living. And in August 1917, the Times newspaper announced,
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah! British government competition to design a memorial medal for fallen service personnel. Grand prize of £250. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah!
the deadline of 1st of November was extended for 2 months to allow soldiers serving all over the world to enter. The competition rallied enthusiasm from those at home, unable to comprehend the horrors of war. Over 800 designs were submitted, and sculptor Edward Carter Preston won first and second prize. The medals were later known as Dead Men's Pennies.
Who's that knocking?
Afternoon, Anna. Any news?
Hello, Mary. I haven't heard from Ralph in weeks. I sent him some socks. I hope he got them.
You got the Annie knitting on for needles then?
We got a terrible tangle.
Mine too.
Even noticed they were a funny shape.
Have you seen this in the paper, this competition?
Oh, if it's for knitting socks, we're in with a chance.
They want us to design a medal.
Us? I wouldn't know where to start.
The winning entry gets £250. It's a fortune.
Well, what sort of medal is it?
It's to send to us mothers and wives.
And sisters.
It's for our boys.
If they... Oh, let me see that.
5 inches across it's gonna be.
They even want the lads to enter. To design a medal for when they...
Well, whoever wins better make a good job of it.
A medal. For a son.
The postman's delivering nothing but bad news these days.
How's Dick doing, Mary?
He's still in the military hospital. I wish they'd send him to Peak House for the extra beds they've added, but nothing for my son.
At least he's been looked after.
Croydon is so far away, he's been there for months. I'm worried I'll never see him again.
He's in good hands. Try not to fret.
Mrs. Coates, Mrs. Coates.
Florence, what is it? What's the matter?
It's Ralph. They've killed him, Mrs. Coates.
No, not my Ralph.
Look, here.
I can't.
You can't! It's your fault he's dead!
My fault? How could it be my fault?
He wanted to run the bakery.
Run the bakery?
Well, you've got your way. He'll never run it down. Let me see. Dear Madam, it is my painful duty to inform you that on the 12th of August... Oh, no, not my Ralph.
What for you, Mrs. Channing?
For me. It's from Beatrice. I'd know her writing. It's from Croydon. Dear Mrs. Channing, I am so sorry to tell you that Dick, this morning, 15th of August, I was with him at the end.
On July 31st, 1917, the Allies launched a renewed assault in Flanders, Belgium, known as the Third Battle of Ypres. The Fifth Army advanced on German lines in the village of Passchendaele. 12 days later, on the 12th of August, 1917, Ralph Clode was killed as the Allies advanced. Ralph's name appears on the Menin Gate Memorial. Earlier, in 1917, Richard Channing had been sent to the Croydon War Hospital. It is not known whether he was injured when he first arrived, but may have been admitted to the Davison Road site where 6 servicemen were cared for. His wife was with him when he died on the 15th of August from a burst ulcer. He is buried here in Sidmouth Cemetery. Sidmouth, everybody who was able to did their bit. In September, the Vegetable Products Society received a letter from HMS Queen Elizabeth. My grateful thanks for the large amount of labour and money which has been so generously expended on our welfare. The gifts of fresh vegetables, so frequently received, are very much appreciated and have done much to maintain the health of the fleet. Yours truly, David Beattie. And in the autumn of 1917, the war even changed children's games.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah! Horse chestnuts for munitions! Horse chestnuts for munitions! Bring all the cockers you can collect to mark it all. Tuesday, between 2:30 and 4:30. Chestnuts for munitions! Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah!
Oi, there for the war, not to play. Whoa. Children collected conkers, not to play with, but to help with the war. Acetone was to be extracted to make cordite, an ingredient in shells and bullets. In a letter to the Sidmouth Herald in November 1917, thanks were given.
Read all about it. Does anyone want a newspaper? Read all about it. School children of Sidmouth, Walbrook, Southam, Otterson and Sidbury collected 3 tons, 400 weight of horse chestnuts. Read all about it.
Nationally, 3,000 tons were sent to top-secret factories in Dorset and Norfolk. But the plan was unsuccessful, as conkers were a poor source of acetone, and huge piles were left to rot. But Sidmouth was keen on collecting, and in December 1917,
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah! Save your paper! Waste paper of all kinds urgently needed to make cartridges. Remember, your waste paper will help win the war. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah!
at the end of 1917, another 41 Sidmouth men and women had given their lives.
Able Seaman Thomas Evans, Private Sidney Jewell, Private Frederick Pinney, Corporal Reginald Small, Private Osborne Stone, Pioneer Charles Searle, Second Lieutenant Thomas Didon, Lieutenant John Tyrrell, Private Frederick Brown, Major Morris Coxhead, Captain Ralph Hine Haycock, Private Arthur Boyce, Rifleman William Weston, Captain Leonard Maton, Sapper Garnet Aldridge, Driver John Pidsley, Gunner Lionel Otten, Private Percy Smith, Officer Steward Ernley Carnell, Petty Officer James Agg, Private Gerald Faulkner, Private George Ashton, Private William Cox, Corporal Frank Carnell, Gunner Ralph Clode, Sergeant Richard Channing, Captain John Rawlins, Private Tecchio Carnell, Voluntary Aid Detachment Nurse Mary Tyndall. Private John Barrett. Private Ralph Bartlett. Rifleman William Sparks. Deckhand Albert Horn. Gunner Victor Tucker. Private Morris Fishwick. Sergeant Thomas Gibbs. Private George Richards. Second Lieutenant Ralph Boddington. Private Sidney Maluish. Private Mark Burrows. Lance Corporal Thomas Brown.
And the new year brought a momentous change. On February the 6th, 1918, universal suffrage gave women the vote, or more accurately, women over 30 who owned property were given a vote, and all men over 21.
Afternoon, Mrs. Clerk. Hope your prices aren't going to go up now you got the vote.
Vote's not going to run my bakery, Mr. Jones. I'm 73 years old and working all hours to put bread on your table.
All women need the vote, not just the rich ones.
Oh, I reckon you could be an MP, Miss Esther. You sounds like one.
We haven't got a vote yet, Mr. Jones. Equal pay for women need.
When you can do the work of us men.
What do you think we've been doing these past years?
You're on, Mrs. Clove. Equal pay. You'll be lucky to be getting that in 100 years' time.
That's a penny halfpenny. Move along now, please. We're closing. Girls, have you seen this in the paper?
I haven't had time. Oh, what on earth got you in such a state?
See there.
Fit men over military age up to 50 years are urgently required for the army. What's the problem?
Well, suppose Percy and Edwin join up. I've lost Ralph. I can't lose them too.
Calm down. Let's take a proper look.
It's too much to ask. It's too much.
Mother, listen. They will be guaranteed service at home and won't be transferred without their written consent.
And how long will that last? If the war gets any worse, they'll be off to France. And we all know what that means.
Try not to worry about it. Come on, let's have a cup of tea.
Oh, you're good, girls. I got in such a panic.
At 5 a.m. on the 11th of November 1918, in a railway carriage in Compiègne, the armistice between the Allies and Germany was signed. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the guns fell silent. 2 days after hostilities had ceased.
Peace, be still. Over the battlefields of Europe, a sudden peaceful hush. Why have the guns stopped roaring? Why no more bayonet thrust? Just one word has been uttered. The word that is the Saviour's will, which he breathed on the lake of Galilee. The word is peace, be still. No more will men in anger grip in their deathly throes. The men who should be brothers should never more be foes. Once more over hill and valley, on a radiant summer's day, will dwell sweet love and concord, and nature have its way.
Despite the joy and relief that the ending of hostilities brought society, there was much to do, as men and women returned from the front. The Sidmouth Observer of November the 18th, 1918, mentioned a new department of demobilisation and resettlement, which dealt with the redeployment of sailors, soldiers and airmen, and civilian war workers. The article said, the machinery has been set up for grappling with the dislocation of industry, created by the peace, which may prove greater than created in 1914 by the war. Sidmouth Urban Council held a well-attended town meeting on Tuesday, December the 3rd, to discuss a war memorial. The chairman expressed the hope that by a united effort a war memorial would be established, worthy of the town and the men who had fought. But Christmas was coming, and Trumps had plenty of good cheer.
Oh yay, oh yay, oh yay! Gert, plumptuous Christmas puddings, canned fruits, dessert fruits, grapes and tangerines, Sidford pineapples, Canary bananas, Canadian apples, Fortescue figs, coconuts, chestnuts, Brazil nuts, walnuts, copse nuts, maize nuts, and almonds. Plenty for all. Oh, Christmas crackers, only a few left. Best get down your sharpish. Port wine, 5 shillings and 6pence, 6 shillings and 6 shillings and 6pence a bottle. All the trumps. Oh yay, oh yay, oh yay. I wish you all a Merry Christmas.
Exceptional value. The port, since 6 and 6, is 32.5 pence. To end the year that war broke out, and peace broke out, 2 films were showing. On the 23rd and the 24th of December, entitled Surrender of the German Fleet and The U-Boat. Another 25 Sidmouth men were lost in 1918.
Cadet George Vallance, Signaller Sidney Farrand, Private Arthur Richards, Corporal Alfred Pratt, Private Richard Ashton, Lance Corporal Norman Westcott, Quartermaster Sergeant Frederick Loas, Private George Anstey, Private Henry Tucker, Able Seaman Kenneth Thomas, Private Ralph Schofield, Able Seaman Jesse Mitchell, Private Reginald Cooper, Private George Burford, Air Mechanic First Class Cyril Shute, RAF, Private George Selly, Lance Corporal Henry Churchill, Private Ernest Collier, Private William Dark, Warrant Officer William Sanders, Lance Corporal Henry Skinner, Private William Moore, Private Alfred Mutter.
helping rebuild shattered communities and tending the wounded. It took months, even years, before they all came home. To welcome the new year in, there was a Sidmouth Association talk on January 3rd, 1919, entitled The Flying Machine in Peace and War, by Miss Gertrude Baker, a well-known aeronaut and author. Her lectures were full of thrilling incidents, well illustrated and delivered in a bright and vivacious manner. But what of our families? Their story does not finish with the end of the war. It is the 27th of June, 1919.
Yes.
Mr. Martin, sir?
Yes.
Ernest Channing, sir.
Just been debunked, Channing?
Yes, sir. 24th of June.
When did you enlist?
In 1904, sir. When I was 17. In the war from start to finish.
Married with a family on the way now, dear?
Yes, sir.
You'll be looking for a job then?
Yes, Mr. Martin, sir.
All right, lad. Mr. Martin will do. You're not in the Navy now, son. Know anything about motors?
Capstans, witches and ship's engines, I do know. And repairing manual metals, sir.
I've had a lot of lads up here looking for work. Why should I employ you?
I work hard and I'm reliable. My father works for Colonel Falcon, sir. I mean, Mr. Martin.
Well, I know your father, and I'm looking for a mechanic. When can you start?
As soon as you like, Mr. Martin.
I'll see you up the yard first thing Monday morning.
I'll be there. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Thank you. Ethel, you've got a job. I've got a job.
No, that's good news. What sort of work?
Mechanic at Martin's. The money's good, and there's no chance of getting sunk.
Precious few jobs. They blame us women for pitching this work. We had 2 volumes all the way.
We're right now, Ethel.
I feel so sorry for Florence Clove. A baby to bring up on her own.
She'll get a pension and Ralph's medals.
What use of dead men's pennies? A reminder of what she's lost.
I miss Ralph. He was a good mate.
Mrs. Clove is all wrapped up with the baby. Edith has to help, but she's got no time for anyone else, including her grandson.
She never got over losing Ralph. There's a lot like her. Our Beatrice has 3 boys to bring up on her own.
Thank God we've got each other.
And our little one will be here in August.
3 weeks later, on the 10th of July, Ernest was on his way home from work.
Mrs. Channing?
P.C. Bugler. Dear Lord, what is it?
Mrs. Channing, I'm sorry, but your son Ernest, he's been hit by a car by Sidmouth Cross. They say he's hurt pretty badly.
God, Ernest. Please, God, not Ernest. Does Ethel, his wife, know?
Come this way, Mrs. Channing. Mr. Martin from the garage has sent a car.
My name is Dr. Tweed, District Coroner. This is an inquiry into the death of Ernest Channing, aged 31, of Church Street, Sidmouth. Mr. Channing suffered fatal head injuries while riding his bicycle as a result of a collision with a motor car driven by Mr. Leonard at Sidmouth Cross on Thursday the 10th of July. He died on Sunday the 13th of July. First witness, P.C. Bugler.
I was summoned to a collision at Sidmouth Cross at 3 o'clock. When I arrived, Mr. Ernest Channing had been made comfortable, and I directed that he be removed to the surgery of Dr. Pullen. I then made inquiry.
Thank you, Constable.
But sir, I have
Sit down, Constable. Mr. and Mrs. Channing, please. My sincere condolences to you both. I'm sorry to ask, Mr. Channing, but did your son indulge in strong drink?
No, sir.
I understand his widow Ethel cannot be with us today,
Yes, sir.
but she spoke to him shortly after the accident.
Yes, sir. Ernest told her that the accident wasn't his fault, nor Mr. Leonard's, that it couldn't be avoided.
Your son was recently discharged from the Navy with a record of good conduct.
Ernest was very proud of that, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Channing. This must be very painful.
It is.
You may sit down, please.
Thank you.
Dr. Pullen.
Sir.
Can you confirm the circumstances of William Channing's death?
Yes, sir. Ernest Channing was brought to my surgery at about 3:30 with head injuries. I heard him tell his wife and his mother I couldn't avoid the car. He did not blame Mr. Leonard. He became unconscious on Saturday and died at 4:30 p.m. on Sunday from a cerebral compression, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Pullen.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Leonard from Branscombe, please.
Sir, I was driving my car up Church Street when I saw a stationary car outside the post office on my side of the road. I examined my Toyota, and the owner of the stationary car warned me to slow down, which I did immediately. At that moment, a cyclist came round the corner from Sidmouth in a wide sweep, dashed in the front of my car, smashed my windscreen into 1,000 pieces.
What speed do you think you were doing at the time of the impact?
Not exceeding 6 miles an hour, sir.
And the cyclist, Mr. Leonard?
Oh, 15 to 20 miles an hour, sir. Mr. Channing had 40 feet clear to negotiate the turn, but he came round the corner beyond the centre of the road. It was not my fault, and I have witnesses.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Sit down, please. Having heard and read all the witness statements, I conclude that this was a terrible accident. Ernest Channing was in a hurry to return home to his wife. I find that no blame can be attached to anyone. Mr. Channing, you may proceed with the funeral arrangements. I intend that my sincere sympathies are extended to you all.
A tragedy. For Ernest to survive 4 years of war and die at Sidford Crossroads must have been a terrible blow to Ethel, Richard, Mary Jane, and the whole Channing family. But despite their appalling losses, our two families, and so many others like them, carried on. Just over 3 weeks after losing Ernest, Ethel gave birth to a daughter, Ernestine, on the 6th of August 1919. Richard Channing Sr. died in 1934, and Mary Jane moved to Kent to live with her son Bill and his family. She died there in 1937. Beatrice Channing, Richard's wife, raised their 3 boys alone. They married and they had children of their own. Jack Channing caught TB whilst in the trenches, but he survived, moved to Grimsby, married, and had 2 sons. And little Ernestine married Alfred Tapley in 1943. She lived in Sidmouth all her life and died in October 2016. She was 97 years old. Her daughter, Diana, lives in Sidbury.
We're very proud of our sons.
And all our grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
And what of our other family? Anna Claude ran the bakery with Edith and Esther and lived to the healthy age of 82. She died in 1927. Her eldest son, Percival, moved to London and married. Esther and Edith never married, and they carried on with the bakery until 1926. They both died in 1966. Ralph and Florence's son, Philip, born on March the 29th, 1916, worked as a French polisher and married in 1942. He and his wife Audrey had 4 children and 6 grandchildren, some of whom live in Sidmouth and are involved in this play.
I'm more proud than you could ever know of my boys, my Ralph, Edith and Esther for keeping the bakery going, my grandsons, their children, and my great-great-grandchildren.
Hostilities ended on November the 11th, 1918, but men and women continued to serve and die. 1919 saw the following losses.
Private Bertie Woodbury, Private William Quant, Regimental Quartermaster Sergeant John Onion, Leading Seaman William Pym, Commander Noel Tyndall.
Over 100 years ago, the men and women of Sidmouth endured a terrible war and made sacrifices so great they can hardly be imagined. Their lives and ours were changed forever. They asked for nothing in return except that we remember them. We hope that this evening has been a fitting memorial to the sacrifice of those who went before us so that we might live our lives in peace.